Hello everybody, welcome to a brand new video. So whilst I'm putting together some guides that are based on some of the old stuff like Act 5, Act 6 guides, and it's taken me a lot longer than I thought it would take me to go back and rewrite these, make spreadsheets and things like that, and think about the fact that we've got 200 plus champion interactions as well as those including buff champions. I thought I'd put together a video about an interesting topic, which is going to be about spenders and how many we have in game versus how many free to play F2P people, those that don't spend in the game. It was an interesting discussion if you listened to the podcast, which I put out on Monday with Vega and with Dan. It turns out, according to Kabam, I need to be very kind of specific on that. According to Kabam, there are 3% of the total player base that are spenders within this game versus 97% of people that do not spend a dime in the game or have spent a dime in the game. And as a lot of you know that follow the channel, in the community tab, I put up a little bit of a poll to kind of say like, well, were people aware of this? Did they know about this? Did they not? Does it factor into some facts about the mobile gaming industry, which we're going to go over in a minute? And it was really interesting to see all the feedback. I've read through all of them, including, you know, those very much, you know, passionate, I say passionate about these things, as well as, you know, just general coverage of stuff. And, you know, people were kind of coming in with kind of like opinions on the matter. And yeah, like it's a very interesting read for everybody and all that stuff. Now, just following on from that poll, just to be very clear on this, for some people that did point out, oh, you know, I can't trust Kabam on it, and I do understand that. I mean, for myself, I've been stung by Kabam's level of trust back in, well, all of us really 2021, but me personally, because I decided to buy the units plus Cavalier Crystal deal back on the Christmas Day deals that we got, and Kabam didn't put drop rates and therefore still said that they were the correct drop rates, even though people were getting trash drops for those particular Cavalier Crystals, the Cavalier selectors. So I do, and maybe I should have put bunny ears with according, but I'm pretty certain people would kind of understand that when I put it seems that according, it's not exactly me saying Kabam say, and it's like, I trust that. There is still that element of kind of like, do I 100% trust Kabam on these matters? But it did give me an idea of like thinking about, let's explore the spending element to this game. And I will touch on things like how the spending in this game can outweigh the bridging between those that are making more quicker gains and also elements of kind of free to play, and why you kind of feel like the distance is kind of drawing and kind of spreading kind of more in certain years. But let's look over some information. So even though this isn't at the current data, this is something from 2014. This would have been just before Marvel Contest of Champions would have been launched. And it was just based on a little bit of an assessment by these companies, in particular Swerve, whoever Swerve were, which could be like a tracking site similar to Sensory Tower and various other things, saying that they tracked the habits of 10 million new players on 30 games on its network over the course of 90 days, finding that only 2.2% of those players ever spent money. The spending of monetized players wasn't spread evenly. So yeah, I don't know 100% on that, how you would kind of like get the differentials, but it's interesting if that statistic rang true in, say, 2020, 2021, 2022, of 2.2% of players being the spenders, which can be increments of just, if you spend $1, you're classified as a spender within the game. The mobile games industry, in any case, is relatively strong. They've recovered to a degree, or matched what happened, you know, in 2020, which, let's face it, is a bit of an unsafe year, or kind of unknown year in 2020. In 2018, $58.8 billion was made worldwide in mobile gaming, $67 billion in 2019, 73.8 billion in 2020, and 2021 clocked in at $75.6 billion. That's a lot of dollary doo-doos. Also, just to make sure it's known, like, there's going to be some problems with stats and numbers, because the problem is most sites seem to be like not following one scheme of facts, but essentially they're all going to be close enough. So it kind of goes, there's so many websites giving statistics of things, and it's like, why can't they all come together with the same bloody numbers? And according to this statistic, there are 2.2 billion mobile gamers worldwide, 203 million of them in the US. 56% of them play more than 10 times a week. That means nothing if you want to put in about 180 million points to try and get something in arena. God damn, that'd be more than 10 times. That'd be like 10 hours plus per day. But in any case, I digress, and we need to get this back focused on Marvel Contest of Champions. As a lot of you know, spending in this game will either get you somewhere, or it'll get you massive difference in places in different things, whether you're being competitive in Alliance Quest and you need something to bump your prestige, whether or not you're getting some of the most spiciest, strongest champions in the game that are deemed to be the god tiers, the beyond god tiers. There is a way that money can help out, and it can stimulate, and it can increase your roster, your strength, your rank, and as well help you in securing an alliance which is befitting of that so-called spend. Even more so when it comes to things like the gifting event and stuff like that. So it's all about money, money, money with Marvel Contest of Champions. Well, if you look at other games like Marvel Battle Lines, that died within 2 years because it didn't have anybody spending any money. And the same thing with Marvel Realm of Champions, which, well, survived for, what, 1 year and 3 months before, it will be shut down in March 2022. So, yeah, sometimes some games need money, but there is a lot of excessive spending in Marvel Contest of Champions. Again, we'll get back to that particular point. But some stats, a couple of stats that are quite important, is that back in 2019, $2.7 million was made in Marvel Contest of Champions. And according to Sensor Tower, $10 million revenue was made in December 2021. So that would have been the gifting event that would have played a huge factor into that. Those two figures, 2.7 mil and 10 million, they kind of interest me from a point of, right, well, if there's, as Kabam claim, in bunny ears, okay, 3% of the player base are spenders versus 97%. So what about these 3%? And because we'll never find out how many active players are in Marvel Contest of Champions, and do bear in mind that recently over 6 million people voted in the round 12, I'm going to go with, just for hell's sake, that there are, and we'll go with initially, there's 1 million players active in game. Again, I'm not basing this on any kind of stats or kind of facts. It's just a case of going like, look, just for the sake of the video, let's say there are 1 million people active within this game. It makes things a lot easier for me doing calculations as well. So from a scenario standpoint, this does give some interesting numbers. So again, just say for hell's sake, we've got 1 million active players. If 3% of the player base is 30,000 players, so those 30,000 people would spend, and say, take into consideration the $2.7 million made on Black Friday, that would equate to $90 per those 30,000 players as an average amount that people spent. And when you look at that statistic, you kind of go like, oh, hang on a minute, that's a bit low, especially like thinking about what, you've seen the likes of like Seaton and other types of big spenders within Marvel Contest of Champions, which there are a lot bigger spenders, by the way, people dropping 50k then, or even more than that. That's an incredible amount of money. But if you take that player base down by, active players 500,000, which, I don't think so. Personally, I feel like it could be between like 700,000 to 1 million, maybe even more. But I kind of say it's got to be, well, downgrade it a little bit. Then you could see 15,000 players. If 15,000 players were the spenders within the game, again, bunny ears, according to Kabam, then that could mean $180 is then on average spent by those players on Black Friday 2019. But more recently, if you take into consideration 1 million active players, 30,000 people within the game that will be spenders that, or technically equate to that, and as well looking at the December take home of $10 million, then it does break things down to $330.33 per player. And I definitely didn't spend that, but then there are others. And this is why things kind of balance up the way they are. I mean, look, we've seen some crazy money into gaming. It does shake up a lot of things with that. I'm not saying that the average is a fair representation of players, but it's the coverage of what Kabam claim is that 3% that people are spending within this game. The particular topic of this video did interest me, especially like looking into like where my current state is with spending. So I haven't been interested in spending in the game since December 25th, and that's because I used my iTunes voucher which I got from my dad, iTunes card, for Christmas, and I used it on a Cavalier Nexus deal, which I did mention about, where you got some units and then you got some free crystals. Now, not knocking, you know, oh, great, oh, I got units still, so that's good, there was some value with it, but at the same time, there were Cavalier Nexus bundles, and I was like, okay, well, I'll go for the I think it's the Saxenian ones, and I'm like, okay, cool. But they didn't have any drop rates. I think I did a video on this as well. They had no drop rates. Now, Kabam are bound by what they put on the Google Play and the iTunes Store, that they must put drop rates in any of their deals. They have to do that. They did not do that in this case. And the handling of this was basically where we did the correct drop rates, but they weren't visual. So they're kind of in breach. You have to do that. In any case, it's just one of these things where I just didn't like the way that Kabam handled it, and Kabam do handle a lot of things pretty poorly at times. I mean, look at some of the state of the last 2021 stuff. You know, it's not been kind of a good handling. Could be a good start to the year when it comes to how they've handled stuff, and I hope they do things like dev diaries in any case. But getting back to the subject, I haven't been kind of spending on too much, and what does like what I buy at times kind of put me in kind of like any advantage over those that don't spend? Well, I suppose because I worked for Thronebreaker, and then, you know, you've got the option of getting a 6-star, it does put me in an advantage to get a free 6-star for my troubles. Is it overinflated on the element of prestige? No, but if you were new to Thronebreaker and you hadn't had any 6 stars and this was what you got, you could make some really kind of good gains in the interim. But again, that's kind of like something for more of a deeper dissection. But there are, yeah, from a spending element, what you get from the Black ISO market helps you out to a degree, not hugely, because a lot of stuff falls into RNG. After the last month of kind of, and as well looking into the comments made on that particular poll that I put out on the channel, and as well as, you know, looking into Brian Grant's video, as well as a lot of coverage, it does feel like with the gifting event, it was good for those that wanted to spend to have something of value when they went for them, but at the same time, what it does is it massively stretches out the players from a point of going, okay, well, free to play is here and spenders are here. Especially if you're going, right, well, one person had no rank 4 champions, now they've got a load of them as a result of what happened with the gifting event. I think it's more important for those that are interested in the competitive elements of the game. For someone like myself, I'm just interested in the casual grind and kind of like enjoying stuff on it. If I'm interested in doing variant 8 one day, I'll do variant 8. If the next day I'm like, oh, I might do 7.2, or I might just bum around in arena for a little while, then that's my vibe. That's my jam. That's what I'm interested in. But there are going to be people out there that want to be pushing more to be more competitive, whether that being in certain alliances, grabbing rank for materials, trying to push to be in stuff like map 8 alliances, trying to be in the top flight for alliance wars. There's going to be so many different elements that really kind of like make you want to get into the competitive elements, but are really shut down because you can't reach there. And that's the point that the game becomes unfun and very much a case of like, well, you know, it's pay to win. And I think this might be a good reason that Kabam haven't put too many volumes of Tier 6 Basic and Tier 3 Alpha into Alliance Wars rewards, because it really would kind of like, not reward, but it kind of like say, okay, well, the more you spend, the more you're able to get kind of like preferential treatment in things like Alliance Wars. But it's definitely not a fun experience, which I think a lot of us kind of like understand with it. Another fascinating element is that, well, Netmarble have gone on a bit of a, what seems like meteoric rise, and then kind of like what seems to be, well, now a bit of a low period of stock performance. And you kind of think at times with the amount of money coming into the game and also elsewhere that the parent company would be doing a lot better than it is. But, well, they need a lot more successful mobile games, does Netmarble. Now, that has been the video. Thank you very much for watching. Bit of an interesting one, deep diving that 3%. I'm back to working now on some other guides, which are going to take a lot longer than I thought to do, but they'll be out when they're out. In any case, thoughts on the 3% versus the 97%, and how you feel like kind of like imbalance really comes in. Do you care that much about the competitive elements and shooting for it? Are you happy where you're on with the game? What are your thoughts? Put it in the comment section down below. And thanks to everybody that got involved with the community tab. It was interesting to see people's interest, passion, and feedback on that particular thought process. check out some other content, which should be located, boom, on screen right now. And I shall see you very soon when there's something interesting that's going on with the game. Apart from that, it's very, well, you know, not much to go. So do some old content or something. Much love, everybody. Bye-bye.